Okay. Hello. I'm holding. Okay. Holding space here. Okay. Zoom up for Sunday. Oh, God. Yeah, on Tuesday. God. So clever. So I meet her today. Go through one day of tension because you need a day of rest because you need the threes. And Tuesday, I showed her, fuck, she won't see it coming, but I'll see it coming because it'll be divine because it was. Oh, God, it's perfect. Yeah, Sunday, right? Yeah, Sunday, right? Oh, there it is. Hey, you there, James? Hey.
Yo, how's it going?
Hey, I'm awesome. I'm well. Jen, you there?
Yes, I'm
Guys,
here.
it's so good to see. It's so good to hear you guys. How the heck are you guys doing?
I'm good. I'm not jet lagged.
You're not jet lagged.
I don't have COVID. So.
Yeah, you're bouncing back from your Superstars debut.
Oh my God. I was a mess all week.
Really? I'm old. It's not easy, I think, to recover from a high like that. I don't think it's, I think once you get exposed to excellence and then you have to come back to sort of like the base rudimentaries, it's not easy. But it is important.
But it's just funny because like I was tired all week and I was complaining about it to my friend who travels all the time. And it's like, it's only a 2-hour difference. How could you be jet lagged? I'm like, fuck you, Greg.
I get that. No, it's not easy. Even 2 hours can make a huge difference. Like in terms
I'm a big baby.
Well, no, you need sleep.
Yeah. That's what I did yesterday. I just slept like a lot.
Are you catching up?
Because I feel today is like the first day I feel fully human.
Good. It's important to feel human if you're going to write humans.
Yes.
Or exactly. Non-humans, as we talked about, right?
Yes.
For sure. So now that I think about it, do we have anyone writing any stories from a non-human perspective? I feel like we've just covered humans so far, but we haven't done any like aliens, no animals. I'm surprised there's been no animals that's come up. Isn't that weird?
I've written a couple of stories.
We have a troll.
Oh, you did? Oh, right. What am I saying? Yeah, Trilla Kenny. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Right.
And my previous novel was technically computer programs.
Very good, James. Very right. No, okay. Touche. Okay. Good thinking. I like that. No, that's really important. It's interesting though, how it all sort of, in the end, at the end of the day, I mean, it's all the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Human beings, animals, it's all just the same like source. So
right. And you're writing stories for humans to read. So
right. And hopefully get paid so we can keep writing stories for humans to read, which is why we're here. So how is everybody doing with that this week? James, you had a huge breakthrough. By the way, my first copy of Faceless is coming in the mail. I think a week from now. I don't know what's taking so long. I ordered it.
Yeah, it's surprisingly long shipping.
Yeah, I know. I was like, all right, let me get this Prime, give it to me. And then it was like, oh no, gotta wait like 2 weeks, bitch. And I was like, wait, what the hell?
Yeah, the problem is I'm not popular enough to actually be stocked in their warehouses.
Yeah.
You'll get there, man. You'll get there. Right. I remember the
If
first.
people like the book as much as they like the blurb, yes, I will.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people read that blurb and they're like, that sounds amazing.
Right. It's because James, you're going to be extremely successful. You're going to be so wildly successful, bro. You have no clue. And you're just getting the hints of it now, but you're going to freaking blow up. It's going to be amazing. And I'm so happy for you because you've done a tremendous amount of work, man. So you ought to feel really good about yourself because, yeah, you were alone when you did that, and you're the man.
I want to talk to you about your newsletter.
Okay. Again, share.
My newsletter?
About
You mean
my
that thing I
newsletter,
haven't
James?
sent at all to anyone?
Yeah. Well, I was wondering what your plans were because I want to set one up even, because people always like set it up even before you have your book. So like, what's your plan? Like, what's your strategy?
So honestly, my plan is to send out newsletters on a semi-regular basis. So I can say like, hey, this is the book that I'm expecting to release next. Here's something I did recently. Here is someone else's book that just came out that I know. And that's basically the extent of my plan for it.
That's cool.
A lot of people say that if you want to have a good newsletter, subscribe to big authors and get their newsletters and just see what they do with it.
People like animal pictures. Put your dog pictures in there.
Right.
I could probably do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm went to a session on email newsletters. And by Nick Thacker at Superstars, and he was talking about like how to set it up and how to do it. What system are you using, James?
MailChimp.
Okay, that's what he said to do first. Is start with something like MailChimp. And his big thing is like people always like, will purge. But he said, don't ever purge your list because we think, one of the things is that you can never be sure if somebody's opened your email or not. Because even if you have a tracker in there that is not accurate, because some systems block like the little images that the trackers, he said you'll never be 100% sure if people are opening them or not. So don't purge your list if thinking that people are not opening them. So
good to know.
Magnificent. That was really great advice, Jen.
Yeah. I was like, he's
like, hey, yeah, no big deal. Like, it's just me. Right? It's no big deal.
No, I mean it was kind of interesting because I know like the I've worked at companies that had newsletters and like they were so obsessed with their newsletter at my last job, and it was terrible. It was a terrible newsletter, and we try to write it in an interesting way. And then my boss, who had been a PhD professor, would come in and rewrite it in words that like nobody, like, yeah, you can tell this is academic writing. This is not business writing.
Right.
In order to serve the totality of our clients. I'm like, nobody talks like that, Andrew.
Yeah.
But but so like we were always obsessed on like the open, and I assumed that it was relatively foolproof, but apparently not.
Right. No worries. Well, I mean, it goes through iterations, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I just want to say, by the way, so I'm really appreciative of everyone being here. I'm extremely sleep deprived. I had a very, very late night last night. I was doing a lot of journaling, and I was thinking about sort of the direction of everything. We're gonna be okay. Because I was as you guys know, we're in phase 3, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're in phase 3, and I just wanted to make a couple things clear. So first off, you guys are like, you bought the stock early, right? So I don't know if anyone knows this, all right? And I haven't necessarily been super transparent, and so what it is like, it's been the 3 different phases, and it's been a lot of work getting you guys all up to this point. But now I'm at this point, and for the longest time, I wasn't doing the checkpoints, the last hit of the checkpoints, because I was a little scared of kind of showing you guys the full breadth of the material. But now I'm at this point where it's sort of like it financially and temporally behooves me that I need to move forward. So first off, I just want to let you guys know, like, super happy. I've really, really enjoyed these groups as the way they've been. There's going to be a bit of a structure change from here on out. I'll be reaching out to everyone in particular. I really appreciate Jen's leadership in a lot of ways, and like the way she's shown up for it. And I don't know how you guys are all feeling about it. One of my goals is, and I don't know, I'm kind of putting her on the spot here, but and she's totally cool to just like not be cool with this. But like something that I've always wanted. So like in my mind, I want to kind of give everyone like the vision of Pro-lit-fic and what I'm trying to do, not only for this year, but like kind of moving forward, and why I built this all up, right? Because I've always wanted to kind of have this platform. And I kind of given you guys have gotten like hints of it through the courses and stuff like that, but I've never given you anything like live. You know what I mean? Like it's always just been sort of like, there was the people getting it, the classes when I was teaching it in phase 1, or like phase 2, you were the guys when I was like reiterating it. But now like phase 3 is kind of like everyone getting it full blast in the face, and all double entendres, all the nasty stuff implied, all of that. And so the reason I'm saying that is because, so Pro-lit-fic, what I want you guys to understand is like the idea is to take this very idea of someone having, you know, whether it's a story about just a girl in a candy shop who has a rabbit, and the rabbit goes out the door one day and that created some trauma, to some galaxy ending war on the other side, and this space flotilla has to come and bring it together. No matter what, that there's these universal principles that bring it all together. And that's something that's been really important to me my whole life, right? And that's been the central core message of what I've always tried to get out and help people do it. And I've kind of struggled to figure out the best ways to tell it and to show it. And I've had to do it alone. And I'm at this place where I can't do it alone anymore. And so I'm really going to need a lot of your help here. And what I'm saying is this. So for me, like, I want to be able to do Pro-lit-fic not only as a platform for my own writing, but a platform for any writers. And it's not for just writing, the storytelling, but it's because I believe media is going to determine the direction of where we as a human race go for the next 100 to 120 years, right? Because the way we spend more time on TikTok and looking in our little cyborg skeletons than we look into the eyes of our own mothers, right? Like we spend more time holding cold plastic than we do our loved ones. And that needs to change, right? And so I feel like the only way to help people see that, though, is through that, if that makes sense, right? And so we've got to do that with our writing, with movies. So the idea is get these really grounded but pure stories out into the world in such a way that the world can get it. Now, this is my mission, and I want to do this to as many people as far and as wide as I can do it until the day I die, which will probably happen when I'm 96, in a grove surrounded by rose blossoms. You know, I'm kind of building it up in my head. Yeah, a couple $1 billion in the bank, you know, 7 virgins, just kidding. Yeah, just kidding. But like, and I wish my webcam wasn't broken. So here's the thing though, but my webcam was broken. I've been managing finances. I'm getting all these clients because I'm trying to make sure that everyone's getting their needs. But I'm at my breaking point, people. I'm at my breaking point. So I need some help. So what does that mean? Right? So that means so I'm bring more people in, guys. Like, hasn't this been good? Has this not been good? Has this helped anybody here? Or have I just been full of shit? Real talk. I want people to start talking. Give me some feedback.
I would say this has been the best workshops I've been able to get a hold of.
Right. Right. So James, tell more people about it, man. Get them involved. Help me out, man. Hook a
I
brother
can try,
up.
but I've told you before, man, everyone I know is dirt poor or they don't write. Like,
Dude, aim higher, bro. That's where the bitches are at. I'm just kidding. I'm kind of a little unhinged. So I'm a little unhinged, right, this day, because I came to a big realization that I kind of need to be more assertive, I guess, if that makes sense. And I feel really good about myself. And I'm super freaking proud of all of you guys. Like, I love you guys. I want you all to succeed. Like, literally, I have written in my journal and journaled and talked about how I want each of you guys to succeed. That's why I had you guys do the exercises. Why I've looked over your trackers. I'm like, I've poured over it because I want you guys to succeed so badly. And it will happen. Right. But I need you to believe it. I really need you to believe it. Right. And so what that means is, like, you got to tell people about us, right? Because I want to do this, and I do it full time right now. But I got to keep the lights on, and I've been moving a lot, and I get it. I still have a lot to learn. And you know, if Jen's going to be a multi-million-dollar CEO, we got to get her paid soon, right? So that's what she's going to do, and we got to bring people in. Got to bring people in. If James is going to be the face of our brand, you know, sell gazillions of copies, we got to get people in. Right. And James, I'll be honest, James, you've been doing it. Actually, everyone's been doing great. So I'm not saying that no one's not doing great. I'm literally just saying, help me, and tell people about it. Because what it is, it's like, I want to take this brand of storytelling to the next level. Like, so it's not just in just the creative workshops, right? Like James said, like, it's the best he's been able to get a hold of. But I want to make that accessible to as many people as possible. And the toughest part about that is, in order to get it, it's like Tesla. In order to get the Model E's out, I have to make the Model S's and the Model X's. So the people who have the big money have to come in first, right? And then they're going to make it possible for a foundation so the people who don't have much can come in, right? And that's how we're going to help the most amount of people possible, so that we're not freaking getting Kim Kardashian on the New York Times bestsellers list week after week, you know, and having to listen to Kanye West month after month. You know what I mean? Like, we need actual healthy role models and good storytelling, and not Rise of Skywalker, you know, not that freaking travesty of a mess. So what I'm doing on my big soapbox here is, like, what I'm saying is just, I just want everybody to really come into themselves, like, and really just ask themselves, because guys, this is going to work. This is going to work. I promise you, with every fiber of my being that I can possibly summon, this is going to work, and will only go as far. It will go as far as you let your imagination take it, which, as we've discovered by the courses and what we know with writing, is limitless. But you have to be willing to push at that, because it's not just in story, it's in practice, right? We have to live that in our own lives. That's what it means to be prolific. That's why we're professionals, right, Jen? That's why we're professionals. And so what that means is, like, so this goal this year, just kind of grounding it. I'm kind of being a little bit much right now. But this year, so my goal is to help 100 authors, right? I want to get them at the very least either published, making money, but I want to help at least 100 authors basically make money with their writing. If they can't do it full time, at least part time. And I want by the end of this year to have a platform that can teach any person, right, from any background, whatever, if they have the willingness and the way, because I believe it's possible. If someone's willing, they'll find a way to come into this program. And if they have a story worth telling, we can help them do that. And that's what I want to build the platform. And I know it's like, oh, hey, we knights of the, round table or whatever, but I'm with 100% certainty can say it will work. So this is just a matter of course. This is not an if, and, or buts. It's already going to work. James, there's something you wanted to say?
Yeah, whatever happened to the phase 1 people?
So what happened? So that's a really good question. So I think I wasn't as strong a businessman then, if I'm being honest. Like I had the course material pretty down pat and I taught them all one-on-ones, but I didn't understand how to get the course out in the digitalized format. You guys got the benefit of that, right? They didn't get that benefit. I had to teach them directly, right? And that's what allows you to be able to get the courses. So I guess once they got it directly, like they didn't need the foundational courses as much. So I still talk to them, but they haven't need the infrastructures as much because fundamentally I just they got so much of it up front. And I think that's why they haven't come back into it, because Christian finished his book, Zoe finished her book, Zach finished his book. Like it's just I did the results and they're like, sweet, I finished my book. And like
And
that.
then they just dipped and don't join the Discord.
Well, I didn't. You really want to know what it was, James? They didn't pay anything. They didn't pay very much, right? And like phase 2 paid a little bit more, but even in comparison to what others are going to have to pay in the future, you guys bought the stock early. And the problem is like when people buy the stock early, sometimes they don't appreciate it until it appreciates. You know what I mean? So like once it grows and they realize, wait, I've had access pass to this freaking behemoth, you'll see them roll back in. But I think that's really the energetic principle at play here, is that what you guys are the perfect confluence of where you guys paid enough that you can appreciate it. The problem is I think a lot of phase 1, they got so much value that and they didn't have to really pay for it. I did. And you guys and everyone who's going to come after is going to pay for it. But that's why. Does that make sense? Go on, Jen.
So did they continue writing? They finished their books? Are they still writing?
So Christian is, right? Zoe is been trying to. I think she came into the cat. Did you guys see her in the Discord?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get her to engage more in the Discord, and she hasn't been liking it. And I was like, yeah. Have you seen her a couple of times? Maybe
Yeah.
I did. Maybe I could have done a better job sort of getting her into the fold more. So Zoe's was a part of it. Christian, he just hasn't come back in. And then Christine, who it was like the MVP of phase 1, and she was actually supposed to be in phase 2, hasn't shown her face. And I've been trying to get her back in here forever.
So it's weird. It's like I'm not discounting the videos at all, because the videos have been very helpful, but the community is more important. It is to me the bigger half of it.
Right.
I'd agree.
And like it's weird, like when you first start and it's like, I don't know who this James guy is and this Gina lady and
Yeah.
and like I don't know these people, I don't know their writing, I don't know anything about them.
Right.
And I'm an introvert, as many writers are.
Right.
And it's hard to get to know people. But once you start to get to know people and you have a shared language,
Right.
So, one of the things that develops in community is that shared language of understanding. So you can say, some aspect of the storytelling. It's like, oh yeah, when we were talking about the chakras and
Right.
this is how I see it applying and stuff. Then you have that shared language.
Right.
And and it makes it a lot easier to discuss story and the story elements. And it's like that can be very hard. Like if you try to talk to other people and it's like, well, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and they're like, what?
Right. So you're saying the course is more function as a way of giving a common language, but that common language being used in the community is the greater value.
I think it makes it more than the sum of its parts.
Right.
Like the stuff, and again, the lessons are useful, and the lessons, have a lot of detail and a lot of information.
Right.
But it's one thing to watch a video and take notes on it, and it's another to be able to talk to people about, like, James, this is why, faceless is working or not working, this scene that you've given us. And being able to put that into practice through the, it's not even like really critiquing, but through the discussion of our work.
Right.
Makes it a lot more real and a lot more accessible, because we can all sit, like, I have bookshelves of books on writing that I read.
Right.
But, being able to talk about it with other people and to put it into practice, it's a lot harder when you're doing it in isolation. And so taking all of this information and being able to, like, yeah, that's all great, and most of it is not, very little of it is like you came to it out of whole cloth. Like you're like, okay, here's this study, here's this information, I'm presenting it to you, how you can apply it to writing. But that's the theory and the practice. And the practice is through the community.
Right.
And that makes all that information work and be valuable.
Okay.
This is Gina. I have to agree with Jen about the theory and the practice, and then having discussions, and then going back, like, right away or the next day or the next morning, and through the notes or through the recording, say, okay, what did they say, and how am I going to take this, and am I going to open my heart to it and say, okay, I have to listen to what they said because it affected somebody in that way. And then you go back to your writing, and then you fiddle around with the writing, and then you're like, holy crap, it worked. It's way better now. And I can see, like, just in my own practice here in this course, only is like, I honestly, I read stories, I love stories, I tell stories. I never really paid attention. I knew first person, third person, but I never really paid attention to narrator in such a way that I have this time. And I'm like, holy crap. Okay, that's cool. I can play around with the narrator, and I can make it, like you said the other day, like it's like big, and then it comes down a funnel, and then it's to one person, and I can bring it back out and I bring it back in. It's like all of a sudden it became like music in some ways. And so but without me having had that, I could have read 1,000 books. I could have looked up 1,000 little articles on the internet about narrator, but without that particular talk and moment together in the group, I wouldn't have clicked.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have clicked, and then my writing would have been static, and then I'd be trying to do something that somebody else said just is what you should do, instead of being able to play with it. Because I think we need to play with our writing.
Right.
We can't just follow a formula. We have to play with it, to break it apart, and we have to put it back together, and we can't be afraid to do that. Where I was before, I was like, oh, this is good enough, because I didn't know what to do. Like, how can you fix something if you don't know the road to do it? or the road to try and do it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I take everybody's comments and I really grind them around my brain. Like I really appreciated James saying he couldn't chew anything on the trolls. And I was like, oh, really? And then I was like, yeah. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, it's kind of just like pretty bland, to tell you the truth. So I went back and I reworked it, and I don't want to add too many more words in the chapter, but I want to give a bigger picture of what it's going to look like. So I just like appreciate like 1,000, I don't even know how to say how much appreciation I have for somebody taking the time to offer something to me and being honest, because I love that, so that I can chew on it myself and say, all right, yeah, let's do it, Gina. Just like mess around with it. It's not in there forever. If it doesn't work, doesn't work. But at least I have somebody who offered me something to do something to improve my writing, and that is worth gold. Like,
Right.
not very many people are going to be honest about your writing.
Yeah.
Right.
And the way we present critique, it was a little hard for me at first because I'm used to the old school Milford style that I've been
Right.
doing for 20 years with groups.
Mhm.
But I really like how we approach it. Like, okay, how did this make me feel as a reader? What am I seeing? Story, premise, world building, character, what aspects am I seeing first?
Right.
And just again, that shared language.
Right.
And just being able to look at, other people's writing and see, okay, like whether or not it worked for me as a reader. And if not, is that something, is it not working because that's the way it was intended to not work, because it's intended for a different audience than me? Or is it not working because the premise and the character are out of balance? And maybe we can help the other person come to that and say, okay, if you want to build some more character in here, this might be the way to do it, rather than it's the descriptive versus prescriptive
Right.
feedback is like, yeah, sometimes we want prescriptive, but I think it was Neil Gaiman was saying, if people tell you something is wrong, they're probably right. But if they tell you how to fix it, they're probably wrong.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's really good.
And, because, and I think of it like when I first learned Perl programming,
Mhm.
and you would get an error would be like on line 152. But the error was actually back in like line 14, where you forgot that goddamn semicolon. And, the bane of my existence, all the commas and semicolons in programming.
Right.
And that's the way it is with story a lot of times. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, this is broken here, but that's only because that's where you see it, because the character wasn't set up enough in the paragraphs before, and that we just kind of grind to a halt when it's not showing on the page in that one spot. But that's not the spot that needs fixing. And that's why the prescriptive and the descriptive, like the descriptive is much more helpful. Like, oh, I didn't buy, like, I don't understand why Fumi is so obsessed with this story or this song. Like, maybe we need to go back a few paragraphs and set that up again. Like, I'm just remembering, because that was a discussion, but, or, this character is so much stronger than this character. It's like we like Fumi because she's dynamic and crazy, and like Kite hasn't done anything yet.
Right.
And and that's not necessarily a failure, if that's what James is looking for. So you can say, yes, I want you to like her, because when he screws her over, it's going to be so much better. Or he could be like, oh, I want him to be a little more dynamic too.
Right.
And I'm not trying to pick on you, James. I'm just, because that's the last thing we read. Yeah. But you know, it's like being able to converse about that and to have people who are welcoming this feedback and understanding this feedback because we're all speaking the same language.
Right. And we're all working towards the same purpose, right?
Yeah.
And,
We all want to tell good stories.
But
right.
Jen, I think you're absolutely right, but I think it's because we're speaking the same Oni's language, not
Right.
only writing language. We're speaking
Yes.
Oni's language. So
Right.
that has to be clear. It's not only writers' language, because writers think, oh,
And
we're
there
speaking
are
the same.
different languages. Like I'm also part of the story grid community, and that's a whole different language.
Right.
Um,
But ours
you know,
sound right.
and you're going to have different languages based on different genres, but you know, we are speaking the language of Pro-lit-fic,
Right.
and so we're able to work within this community.
Right. So what would you guys feel like? So once again, like, so a lot of the reason point of these Sunday calls, because remember, like, so on Mondays and Tuesday, like, so we got the Tuesday, Wednesdays, and so by the way, so by the end of the year, my goal is to have a teacher running one workshop every single day.
Yeah.
Of the year. So my goal is, like, obviously I won't be running them all, right? But my goal is like, so real talk, like, so my goal is like, first get the people who get it, find the ones who are winning, and then when I start getting paid, pay them, and then they can kind of help me out with that. And then the idea is that every day someone will be teaching a different aspect of what we're gonna, the curriculum, and it'll be reiterated every single week. So how there's, I don't know if you guys recognize this, so I'm kind of feeling myself a little bit, right? Let me feel myself a little bit. But do you guys recognize, like, in the 6-week cycle, and the 6 weeks, like, if we were able to get that for every single point in the story, right? So basically every 2 weeks, not every 2 weeks, every 12 weeks, right? We essentially pull someone through the cycle of writing their book. And if we can get a course where every single day there's a teacher doing that, everything you guys just said about getting that live feedback, day-to-day feedback, we can do that for literally hundreds of thousands. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I don't know if that made sense.
I'm all in.
I'm trying to say.
That's sweet. So I just want everyone to get the vision of it. I need to implant it in your brain so that it'll swim out there. And I really appreciate everyone's feedback on just understanding how it's helped you, because that's what the Sundays are really for, because they're the only rest. Everything else is craft. Everything else is story. Everything else is professional, serving the others. But the reality is like, you can only imbalance that, like, mathematically. And we show that, of course, right? Like, we could only give so much to the world when we're getting, right? And, like, especially like on these Sunday calls or whatever, I really want us as writers, not like, we talk about the craft, we talk about the fruit, right? But remember, it's bringing it back to that tree and asking about how each of us are doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Oni.
Yes, Gina?
Yeah, I was just trying to think, like, in screenwriting, there's this Robert McKeon, maybe you've heard of him. And so he puts on these humongous conferences, 3 times a year, I think, around the world.
Right.
And, charges whatever. And people go to them for, I don't know, 2 or 3 days or whatever, and listen to him jabber about screenwriting and stuff. But have you ever thought of writing a book with all of your teachings in it?
So, believe it or not, I actually did. But I never shared it with anybody.
Why?
Because I have mommy issues. That's literally the whole point of this, right?
All right. So
Why do you think
F
there's
your
so many women in
issues.
this course? Why do you think there's so
Just-
many damn women in this course?
Okay, so forget about your issues, put them on the back burner,
Okay.
get your book published for your writing book. And that, I think, once people start reading that, you will have a bigger gathering of people coming into you.
Okay.
I think that. I think
So-
that you need to get your words of incredible wisdom about writing out in the world so that lots of people can read. I'm only thinking about Robert McKee. That's why that came to my mind, is that he has his book, everybody reads the book, and everybody wants to see the guy. And so I think if you get the book written, beautifully written book, like really do it like top notch, like you're gonna have to like spend some time and money to get somebody to help you to do it, like so it's clean, like professional, super professional. Get it, write it, and then you gotta like somehow get it out. I don't know how you do that, like bestseller lists. You buy 5,000 copies of yourself or something, and then it gets on the bestseller list. My son was telling me stuff like that, how to get a book on the bestseller list. And then then you start your conferences, and then people want to take your course. And like you gotta, I don't know, and I share a lot, but I don't
No,
have
it's really, that's the thing is, I was just saying that, guys, it's on me.
No,
The
I
reality
think
is
I think it's on you only, but I also think it's on us, because why wouldn't we want to share that this is the best thing we've ever bought? And I spent a lot of money on writing courses. Like this is not like the first time I've dished out some money on a writing course.
Right.
So I think, we should share too, but
this is the
I'm
best
saying
one for sure, right? I punched
yeah,
it in the face,
100%,
right?
100%.
Absolutely. Validate me. I need that.
No, I've told you that before.
Give it to me.
I've told you that before.
No, you have.
For sure.
I need you to
For
say it in
sure.
front of everybody else so I can feel myself a little bit.
No, that's fine. That's good.
I appreciate
And that's totally acceptable to have to want to feel that, and to build yourself up a bit, to say, okay, I'm not crazy and I think I'm good. You are.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that. Write your book.
And the interesting thing is, like with any of these courses, there's a critical mass problem. Like, I will not lie, like the first few weeks I was like, what did I do? Like, is this actually useful? Is this actually helpful? Like, like sitting there questioning, like I spent all this money on this. But then it, like you've got to get all of this information until suddenly it gels into something useful.
Right.
Because like at first it's like, okay, is this gonna do anything?
Different. It's
different. It is different.
Definitely different than what's out there.
Yeah, because a lot of courses are like, okay, blah, here's a whole bunch of, like the one concept they're working on, and there's no one concept.
Right.
And you have to go through it for a while before it all kind of like you get all the pieces of the puzzle and you can suddenly see the picture.
Right. And what did you guys see how like it's like for me it wasn't, I feel like a lot of people are trying to sell you puzzles, but I'm like, no, I'm trying to teach you guys how to solve all puzzles.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the puzzle is.
And that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah. Because like, I was talking to Brandy a little bit, when we met up at, Worldcon, and it was like, what did we get ourselves into? and then it was like, oh, like because like that was only like a few weeks in, and I was like, oh, am I gonna have buyer's remorse here? I don't quite understand and how this all is gonna do anything. And then and I can't tell you exactly when it came together.
Yeah.
But then it started clicking as every layer layered on itself. And
someone had thought it through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, okay, this does all come together. This is all thing. And
I'm laughing only because you are a huge prologue writer. You got to be you have to give a prologue to your course, like a video prologue, just to
Right.
say, everybody calm down. It's gonna come. The pieces will make sense. You really, you got to plug through a little bit and have faith and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. So you need a
Right.
prologue to your course.
Right.
But I also appreciate that it isn't just jumped on us this huge mess.
Right.
You know, like you took it out and you broke it out into pieces.
Right.
That
As best I could. Some
Right,
were
yeah.
more dense than others. You know?
I mean, but writing is a lot of distinct pieces, but they all build on each other. They all connect.
Right.
You know, plot is character, character is plot. Characters, world building is character. Like it all kind of comes together, but you have to take it apart to look at it.
Right.
And then you can put it together. But it's like, when you disassemble something and you're like, where did all these parts come from? I don't understand. And then you're slowly putting it back together, and then suddenly you have,
a story.
Right.
Well, and so what's the thing is, like, though, one thing I wanted to say is, like, how can I do a better job of helping everybody see that that's within themselves? Because, like, part of it is like, okay, I want you guys to be able to do that. Like, again, I want you to be able to do it through Faceless. I want you to be able to do it through Trilla Kenning. I want you to be able to do it through, the Nitrous and, all your guys' different stories. But, like, ultimately, the most important thing is it's through you and how you show up every day. Like when you wake up, when you touch, when you sit in your body, like that idea of the story, it starts with you and it ends with you because it's about you, about the author before it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think only once you accept, like, like first couple of videos, like, okay, I don't know what this is all about, but come on, Gina, you can do this. You can do this. And I felt some energy from you, Oni.
Right.
And I felt some obligation to you to do my best. And I have never really felt that through any other course. I felt obligated, and I still feel obligated to write the best book that will ever, my first book. It's going to be great. And I'm going to give kudos to Oni.
Yes.
And I feel that obligation to you. And so I don't want to go back on my word. I remember our interview. I don't want to go back on my word. That my word is like really valuable to me. Right. And so, and somehow you brought that out in me. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting how that young man brought that out in me, that I feel an obligation. I'm being honest here, an obligation to do my best. And then all of a sudden, because of that, if I don't write every day, I'm a miserable being. I am Trilla Kenning stewing on seaweed for a year. And I can't function. I'm so cranky. I can't, and my job is getting to me that I got to get out of there because I have to write. And all of a sudden, when the narrator clicked in, I was like, whoa, I can actually do this. It's going to be good. And then all of a sudden I feel like all the layers, I'm like, okay, there's lots of layers behind and they're waiting to jump into the story, but let's get this part done so that the new layers can come in. And then those layers will invite more layers. And I'm just like, whoa, this is like a tidal wave behind me and I got to get going here. And I have never felt that from a teacher. I've always felt like I'm an idiot.
Right.
That they have some sort of secret that they don't really want to share with me, or they look at me like, oh yeah, sure, Gina, that's not gonna be a good book. Like, okay, great, or whatever. And and all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, I think I can do this. I think I can write a really good book. And awesome. I don't know the rest of the group knows, if the rest of the group knows, but my ultimate goal is to get it done so that it's a feature animated film. So
yeah,
that's my little fake Oscar statue sitting on the top of my
No fake
bookshelf.
Oscar. Got it. Trilla Kenning nominated for Best Animated Picture 2027, Oscars 2027.
And I just thought about, was kind of watching the Olympics with my mom, and I wasn't watching the Olympics, I was watching advertising. But anyway, because there's so much, and the American channel is way better than the Canadian channel, so we just switched on to the American channel. But
can I jump in?
Yeah.
I've accumulated a couple thoughts to share.
Okay.
First question: when are you starting that YouTube channel?
I've started it. I just don't share the videos because I have mommy issues, but they're there. I actually make them every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I don't know why I don't share them.
All right, how do
don't
I
have your
find them?
link. Why am I not subscribed to you?
Yeah.
I think that
Because I
what
don't tell anybody about it because I have mommy issues. And
your
talk a
mom
lot about
loves you,
my-
Oni.
and I
Get
talk a lot
over it.
about my mommy issues on my YouTube channel, which is why I don't tell people about it. So it's called the Oni and Yabor Raising Project.
I'll
Put it in the
go
link.
looking for that somehow.
Put it in the chat.
Okay, let me put it in here. Okay.
Come on, man. You can do this. You've
All right.
So,
influenced us to do it. We're gonna try and influence you to do it. Let's go.
Thank you guys. I appreciate that.
I do think the strongest thing that you can do to draw people to the program is probably to put up a lot of the content for free on YouTube.
Yeah. I think
I don't know about
not necessarily at all, because like obviously the most useful is the discussion of it.
the community.
You could watch 1,000 hours of theory and come out with no retention.
Right.
And that's basically what happens with most amateur authors.
Right. Well, then that's why, because until you pay, you don't pay attention. Like that's why we were talking about the law of equivalent exchange, right? That's why I mean, that's why. And the thing is, like, you guys, what you didn't pay for in financials, you did in your faith in me. And I want you to know that I will do everything in my power to make that happen for you, because I appreciate what you guys did for me.
I found it.
So I also want to express some appreciation for the content, because there are lots of people that are essentially scam artists that are selling all the secrets, and the secrets suck. And if I hear one more person say, "Oh, you need to have a pinch point at 37% the way through your book," I'm going to get arrested for assault.
Yeah, that freaking those tropish, that lame shit. Yeah.
Yeah. From my personal experience, I adamantly believe that craft really is something that you can teach yourself. If you just sit down and you write and you read critically, you will teach yourself the craft.
Well, and that's the whole point of the course, is like, I'm trying to teach you, you don't really need this. You don't really, if you tap into yourself, you don't need it. It's already there.
Yeah, and
So
that's
you gave a lot about sequencing, I'm going to put it. Like my ideas for cyberpunk come from reality. They come from history. They come from science. I don't build my world based on the chakras. Right. But I do. I am adjusting the emotional journey because of it, and that it is giving a lot of the connective power of the story.
Right. So even in that framework, and that's where I guess something where it's like, no matter what, just having that outside influence to introduce it changed your writing. It made it all the better.
And
it's not like you changed my ability to write a fight scene.
Exactly. Right.
And it's about more, like there is it's not doing craft, it's thinking about craft. And there's like a whole bunch of tools in the toolbox.
Also feeling craft too. Jen.
And feeling craft, yeah.
Really feeling it. That was a big
But the
part.
other thing is, like, you don't focus on process except showing up. You know, James is an outliner. I am not.
Right.
And we can both take the same class and not feel like we're being told to do the other thing.
Right. Because it's not about that.
Because it's not about that. It's about knowing yourself, knowing your process, knowing what works for you.
Right.
and knowing yourself and being able to put yourself into the writing and to think about it. And it's like, okay, the chakras might not work for all projects, but the hierarchy of needs might work for this project.
Right.
And it's just all of these different angles at coming at it and thinking about it.
Right.
And I've never seen it applied to setting and premise as opposed to just character.
Right.
And, you know, it's just, you know, here are all the tools. And I'd say, half of it is developing yourself
Mm-hmm.
as a writer, as opposed to developing necessarily the craft.
Right.
I mean, the craft we're talking about, but we're talking about it at a very different level, as opposed to here is how you put sentences together.
Exactly.
And here is where you put your pinch point at 38%, James,
Right.
not 37.
Oh.
And
yeah, all that BS. Right.
and there's so much out there that's the one true right way.
Right.
And this course is about finding your own one true right way, or your one true right way for this project.
Right. And getting it down to that, it can be micro-sized or macro-sized, however you
Right.
want.
And then, and like the next project might be different and you have to approach it slightly differently, and that's okay. But like too often you end up with the, because a lot of the one true right ways are easy to teach.
Right.
It's like I have a friend of mine, and she is like the uber pantser. Like she doesn't even know what she's doing when she starts a story.
Right.
And, I'm a little bit more structured than that, but, and we were talking about, we talk about this stuff and, the one true way. And I'm like, and she's always like frustrated because everybody always wants to teach outlining.
Right.
And I'm like, it's because it's really easy to teach story structure in outlining.
Right.
Because you don't have to wait for somebody to write a whole freaking book.
Right.
But in this case, we're not learning structure. We're learning
how to structure.
The underlying aspect of why does the structure work?
Yeah. Why does structure even exist? Why do we even bother with structure?
Right. Like these are why the structures work.
Right.
And this is why, because there are different structures for different story types. There are different structures for different cultures.
Right.
And it's like, you have to understand the underlying psychological aspect of it as to why this story goes this way.
Right.
Before you can even get into where your pinch points are.
Right. Well, because all that's like really just minor mechanics, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like,
and like James said, we can learn mechanics.
Right.
Anybody can teach themselves mechanics.
Right.
But why you choose this set of mechanics over that set of mechanics, that's a completely different aspect.
Can I share a couple of thoughts real quick?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to have to take off in just a minute.
Me too.
So I'm going to try to get through this without getting emotional, but apparently that's failing already. So Oni, the role that you have taken in this class has been very special to me because this is where I took my first baby steps as a writer. When I met you, like I've been a firm believer in the power of story my whole life. And then to hear your pitch for this class, I was like, there's somebody else out there who gets it. There's somebody else who understands the way I relate to and attach to story. And the way you've set up this class, you were asking how you could help us see it within ourselves. You have been my biggest cheerleader through all this. I know I've spent a lot of this class in the background, and Oni, everything that's going on in my life right now that makes it really hard for me to be there in person. Mm-hmm. But despite that, all of our projects by name, like just now off the top of your head, you're so invested in us. We feel that. And just like Gina said, you've created this obligation of, dang it, he believes in me. I have to deliver. I can't let Oni down. I think you underestimate the power that you have brought to this course just because you are who you are. So that's like my, as the writing baby of the class, don't underestimate the power that you bring to this course simply because of you.
I appreciate
So
it.
I'm gonna quit crying now, but
Thank
those are
you.
my two cents.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I'm gonna say something slightly different. I'm not so worried about disappointing Oni, but he's made me really, really strongly afraid of disappointing myself.
Good.
Well said, Jen. Well said.
I love it. I love it.
Hey, I'm
so
just saying, if you get your book published, that's no longer a concern. It's pretty nice up here.
It's pretty nice up here, Dibs. All the boys be up here. Come on, ladies, waiting for you. Anytime now. Anytime.
It's funny because I've submitted a couple stories to the New Yorker, and I was reading about the New Yorker and how it's like this crazy percentage of, like, I don't know, like 80% men submit to the New Yorker and 20% women submit to the New Yorker. And I was like, what? After I submitted, I was like, wow, that's weird. I
Right.
thought that was really weird. And I was like, holy shamoly, that's like intimidation for women or what? I mean, this was like, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago now, but I was like shocked. But maybe we're just more, maybe we're more perfectionist or something. I don't know. Really, I don't know.
What I think is it is my role to call the sort of the greatness out of a lot of the latent female writers that are there. I think we talk about sort of like the masculine and the feminine, the proactive force, and obviously each of us have it, male, female, masculine, have those forces inside of us. And a big part of what this course, because literally creation is the confluence of this ultimate proactive force, the masculine and the feminine force coming together and holding that space, right? No worries, Liz, we miss you already. Have fun at church. But yeah, like, and the idea is like really germinating and creating a culture and a language so that you guys can express that. But anyway, yeah, we are at the top of the hour. Guys, thank you so much. Probably going to use this recording and start just sharing it with a bunch of people when they question the efficacy of this course. I'm just going to be like, hey, listen, this is what a bunch of my students said, and this was our last class. So tell me if you want to be a part of this. And then
Yeah, no worries.
So thank you guys so much for that. I really appreciate it.
All right, anytime.
You guys are the best.
Arnie,
We
Uh-huh.
love
got a
you.
question for you.
Yeah, go on, James.
Could I give you some homework so we could discuss something?
Yeah, of course.
So I, on recommendation of a friend, started a rather old book, and I'm 50 pages in, and it did something that no modern book would ever be allowed to do, but it did so brilliantly. Because it basically spent the first 50 pages doing nothing but making you like the main character.
Right. So building up your
yeah. So do you have time to read 40 pages of a good story? So we can you can help me figure out why it worked so damn well.
Okay, let's do this over Discord. All right. Let's do that. I'm gonna end the call now. Let's continue this over Discord. Thanks so much, guys. Stay happy, stay healthy. Peace.